So I think working in the movie theater really helped me out, because you're on the fly, you're on the go, and you know, I was using my voice, So now, I wouldn't recommend. Well, I mean, I don't want to sound mean or insensitive or whatever, but it's kind of a joke I had. Like, if if stuttering helps, if working in the movie theater helps people deal with and overcome they stutter, they should all work in the movie theater. Just don't work at the same one. Tripping. Tripping with Theobold.
Come on, Dre.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Tripping with Theobold. I'm your host, Andre Theobold. Welcome to the show. AT is where it's at on most forms of social media, so make sure you follow me. Bam. As you guys can see, I'm in one of my many rooms in my multifaceted studio over here in Theobold Studios. So, I make sure I do the upgrades to, give you guys what you pay for. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. I'm here to give you what you pay for. And right now, you getting a lot. So anyways, as you guys may or may not know, this show is called Tripping with Theobold because I trip in speech and thought. I grew up with a stutter. It's not all the way gone, so you got to catch me if you can. Also, like I be having like crazy thoughts. I be thinking about a lot of crazy stuff. So that's why the show is called Tripping with Theobold. And I want to dedicate this episode to all of my fellow stutterers out there. Some of y'all may think I'm lying or you may think I'm playing. I don't know. I don't really judge myself. I just get through every day. That's all I do. I just get through. Some people say they don't believe me when I stutter or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Some people see it, some people don't. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. So I want to just give some words of wisdom or like I almost don't feel qualified doing this, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go ahead and just give you my top 3 things that helped me along the way as a stutterer, and you guys can apply to yourselves or whatever. I'm just here to share some knowledge, and to try to open up your minds, So first thing I would say, if I had to give advice to someone who stutters or, is going through it or whatever, is what helped me is acceptance. You know what I mean? Like, don't try to eliminate it. It ain't going nowhere. Trust me, it's not going nowhere. And even if you do get rid of it, you're still going to have the mental residue of the nervousness and the potential slips. So don't try to eliminate it, right? The more you try to eliminate it, the more you going to be crazy. The more you're going to go crazy, and you're going to frustrate yourself, and then you're going to tighten up. And then when you tighten up, that's when, the bullshit happen. Can I cuss yet? Make sure I can cuss. Let me see. Can I cuss? Yeah, I can cuss. Okay, good. Cool. But yeah, that's like the first thing I would say, man, is just accept it. I remember when I was young, I used to go through it, man. I remember I had this thing where I would try to go through the whole day without stuttering, and if I can make it through the day, I could say, you know what? If I can make it through the whole day without stuttering, then boom, I can do it for another day. If I can do it for 2 days, I can do it for a week. If I can do it for a week, I can do it for a month, and so forth and so on. And I couldn't get through one day without stuttering, man. Like I remember one time, I think I was in 5th grade or 6th grade, and I would, keep track of every time I slipped up. And one day I was doing good, man. Didn't slip up, came home, and I had like a little note. I had like a little sticky pad, and I wasn't like as methodical as I thought I was, but I remember having like a little sticky pad, and if a word gave me trouble throughout the day, I would come home and write it down. And I remember I was getting through the day, you know, no stammers, no stutters, no like none of that. And I came home, and then my mom asked me something, and I stuttered, man. I was like, fuck, you know, and I was mad, man, messed up my whole day. Then I mean, the rest of my day, right? And after that, man, I was like beating myself up, you know. And I forgot like how old I was or when this happened, but I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna accept it. You know, um, it's always gonna be here in some way, shape, or form. You know, if it's not here physically, it's gonna be with me mentally. It's always going to be here, right? And when I said, you know what, I'm not gonna try to get rid of you. I'm just gonna work with you and be lighthearted about it. That's where things started to kind of, you know, settle down, and I was good, you know. So that's my first like little tip or first thing that kind of helped me get through it, you know, was the fact that, you know, I just accepted it, you know. It's like water, right? Like if you fight the water, you're gonna drown, right? But if you just accept that it's there and you gotta navigate through it and swim through it and relax in it, man, trust me, you'll relax a little more and you'll stress yourself out a whole lot less. So that's the first thing I would say is um just accept it. It ain't going nowhere. And that's okay. The second thing that I think helped me get to where I'm at is, believe it or not, man, you know what? Is my mom and dad making me read into the tape. Like first of all, that's what they used to say, talking to the tape, you know, but you can't talk into a tape because you got to put the tape into the tape recorder and then you got to record. So you're really talking to the recorder, you know what I'm saying? But my folks used to make me go and like talking to my tape, you know, like if I got locked up in a phrase or a word, they'd be like, nigga, go talking to the tape, you know? And I would go in the room and I would talk into the tape. But what I realized through talking to the tape is that when I was talking to myself, I could talk. I was fine. Like I was fine. Like I was like, man, I can talk to myself fine. It's just when I get around people, you know, that's where the bullshit happened. You know? So um I would say definitely, man, talking to the tape, you know, and um just study your voice, man. You know, like what what sounds do you what sounds can you make without trying, or can you feel when you're about to hit a block? You know what I mean? Like the more you experiment with your voice and practice, the more you're going to know what you can and can't do in public, you know? And I don't like using the word can't. It's just you're going to know what you're going to struggle with and what you're not going to struggle with, you know? So that would be another thing. Like I said, man, talking to the tape, just know what your voice does and listen back to it. Because from what I've seen, all stutters are different, you know? Um, like I don't think we can all go around and say we all stutter the same way. Like we have different ways in which we do it, you know? Like some people may, like you may go talking to the tape and you may struggle talking into the tape, you know what I'm saying? But it's like at least you're going to be aware of what it is that you're doing and what you're struggling with, you know? Something that's like crazy was um and I just thought I thought about this a while ago, but I had to actually learn that I was stuttering. That was a scary thing, you know? Like I'm very like self-aware of my voice, you know? Like it was scary because in my mind I'm talking fine, but my mouth is doing its own thing and I'm like not even paying attention to what my mouth was even doing, you know? So that was scary, you know, when you um like I remember the first day. I remember when they had a speech therapist come to my grade school. I think I was in first grade or second grade, but everyone's getting ready to go outside to go to recess, and there was a lady in this blue dress, and you know, I'm getting in line to go outside to go play, and the teacher was like, "No, Andre, you can't go outside and play. You're gonna sit today, and you're gonna sit in with Miss So and So." And all the students were looking at me like I was in trouble, and I'm like, "Yo, why? Like, yo, why am I here?" Like, I didn't even know why I was even there. Like, no one broke down to me and said, "Hey, look, man, you know, you stutter. You know what I'm saying? You need to, like, here's a therapist to help you." Like, I didn't even know I was even doing it, you know? So that to me was crazy. So just become more self-aware. Like I said, just like talking to the tape, play it back, learn what you struggle with, learn what's easy for you. And then just the more aware you are of what you do, it's gonna calm your nerves a little bit more in public. So when you do talk, you kind of know where the trouble regions are and where your safe zones are at, you know? Um, what else can I say? You know what? I'm not even gonna give three. I'm just gonna tell you everything, you know, because there's no top one, two, or three things. I'm just telling you like what I've done. One thing I've also done is, and you can, and this is kind of a derivative, or kind of, it kind of relates to what I just said about what knowing your struggles and knowing what your strengths and your weaknesses are. But if you know, so this is the creative part, right? So you know, um, this is where it gets kind of fun. You know, this is like, you got to make things a game. You know, because when you get stressed out, it's gonna be, you know, you're gonna stress out, and you know you're just gonna make life harder for you, unnecessarily. So one thing I did, and I still kind of do to this day, but not as much, is I would say that I know what sounds are sounds that I don't struggle with, and then I would use those sounds to bridge or to jump off of those sounds into sounds that I struggled with, you know? So it would look awkward, it would sound awkward, you know what I'm saying? But it was a way for me to kind of not get not get caught, or to not get caught up, you know? And of course, you know, as your vocabulary increases, you can then play around with the words and the sounds differently, you know? But that's one little thing that I did. I used to always know what sounds I could make, or what sounds I didn't struggle with, and then I would use those sounds as a bridge point, right? Let me give you an example, right? This is actually a joke I'm working on. But uh, when I was younger, I could say the word G, like Gee, like golly G, you know, and that was like one of the only words, like that's one of the only sounds I could make, you know what I'm saying, or that didn't give me trouble. And I would start every sentence off with that, and once I got rolling, I was good, you know. Like, I would be outside playing with some friends, and I'd be like, "Gee, it's a nice day today," you know. "Gee, those are some nice shoes," you know. And then if someone like if their pet died, or like if their goldfish died, I'd be like, "Gee, I'm sorry to hear about that." And I remember I had a sitter that used to live in my neighborhood. She was young, but she used to come over and like babysit me. And I remember she called it out, man. She was like, "Why do you say G before everything?" I was like, "No, I don't." And then they were like, then they were like, "Okay, watch this. Hey, Andre, say G." And I would be like, "G, G." You know, right? That's what I mean, right? Just you use a sound that you can make to jump to another sound. You know, it's like a game, you know? Like, you got to catch me if you can. It is what it is, you know? Um, so that's something I would say to like play around with. What else? I would say also, what's another tip or another strategy, um, that helped get me to where I am. I would say also read out loud, man. Like read out loud in private and then read out loud in public. Like anytime you have an opportunity to read out loud in front of somebody, just take the advantage of reading out loud. You know, I used to hate reading out loud in class, man. Like I used to have damn near panic attacks going to class, man, because you know you got to read these words, and then it's like a lot of people are ignorant, right? They think that just because they think that if you can't sound out words, you can't read. But what's funny is a lot of motherfuckers that can sound out words and sound like they read and they really can't read because they don't even know what they read. Right? The whole point of reading is to comprehend, right? Reading words out loud and sounding words out loud is just proof that you can say the words that are on the page. But it doesn't like have any bearing on what you have just read, you know? So um I remember, man, I used to get so nervous in class, man. I would have my book and they go around. And here's the thing, right? I was always on my best behavior because I was like, yo, if I'm cutting up in class, that's gonna be, grounds for them to call on me to read out loud in class. So I just would read. And I remember when the book, because we all had our books open and people would read. And I used to love when people would ask questions in class because it would slow up the pace of the reading, you know? So if I'm looking down here, it's like playing football, right? Like, I play football. Some of you guys may not know there's a drill called the Nutcracker or the Oklahoma drill, and it's when two players lie on their back. It's illegal now, by the way, because people got hurt doing it. But I used to do this drill playing football, and one player lies on, like you have two players, they both lie on their back, and then one player has the ball, and then there are these cones, right? So you're lined up between these two cones, and the coach will blow the whistle, and then both y'all got to get up as fast as you can, and the ball carrier has to try to run over the tackler, and the tackler has to bring down the ball carrier, right? And if you're afraid of contact, what'll happen is, you know, they'll tap the other guy before they blow the whistle. So when you get up, he's already in your face, pause, and then, boom, you got to deal with that contact, right? So in the Oklahoma drill, in the lines, people would, be looking and pointing and counting to see who they were going up against. And if you didn't want to go up against someone that hit hard, you would try to trade to try to get out of it. I was the same way with reading. When I was in school, I would look to see the pattern of how they would call, the students to read. And if I'm on the far end of the class, I'm like, okay, cool. We got 30 minutes left in class. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. Um, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna sit tight, and hopefully, you know, people have questions about what they're reading, so it slows up the pace. But a lot of times it would still come to me, and I had to read. And man, like I would like my palms would be so sweaty that the ink would be coming off of the pages, man. That's how much I didn't want to read out loud in class. But when you face that fear of reading out loud, that to me helps because it's almost like training wheels, right? When you're riding a bike, like when you read out loud in class, you know, you don't have to think about what you're saying. All you have to do is read what's on the page, right? Now, if you stutter, like, making those sounds can be difficult, but, you know, or here's the thing too, right? This is why, you know, stuttering is such a mystery because some people, you know, can talk fine, or some people can think about what they want to say and say it fine, right? Or some stutterers can think about what they want to say and say it fine, but then when they have to read what's in a book, they'll stutter the words on the page and vice versa. I was the kind where if I knew the words were there, it was less work for me to have to think about anything. All I had to do was put my concentration on saying and sounding out the words, you know? So by sounding out the words, you know, in front of a big group of people, that helped build my confidence in my voice in public, So I would say read out loud when you can in front of people, Um what other words of wisdom, or what other tips can I give you that's gonna help or that can help? I would say what else? Do tongue twisters. I wish I did more tongue twisters growing up, you know, but didn't have the internet like it is now, I had that dial up, I mean, you could have probably still find you could have probably still found tongue twisters on the internet, but tongue twisters help because you're purposefully tripping your words up, and you're I think the exercises of doing that will force you to slow down and say all the words that you need to say that you're probably not going to use in a sentence like that. So I would say really get them tongue twisters, and do them first thing in the morning and when you go to bed at night, especially with the sounds that you like struggle with. So if you struggle with a certain sound, I would say just make sure you hit those every day. Matter of fact, I would say do those in your do those when you're talking into the tape, and then start talking, and then you're gonna build confidence over time. What else? I would say what's another thing that helped me get to where I'm at? You know what really helped me, man? And I'm not even gonna hold you, man, is working at the movie theater. You know, working at the movie theater really, I think, helped me because you have to talk to people when you work in the movie theater, and you're dealing with a lot of moving pieces around you. Like I used to work concession, and I used to work everything, but when you work concession, you have to upsell. If you don't upsell, you're gonna have your quality secret shopper come around that's trying to fire people for not upselling on the popcorn and stuff. So you got to say the upsell. You know, you like you're back there sliding around all the butter and stuff on the floor. You got people that don't know what they want, and then you got to tell them the price. And then once you tell them the price, then you got to count their change back. You got to handle disputes. So I think working in the movie theater really helped me out, because you're on the fly, you're on the go, and you know, I was using my voice. So now I wouldn't recommend. Well, I mean, I don't want to sound mean or insensitive or whatever, but it's kind of a joke I had. Like, if if stuttering helps, if working in the movie theater helps people deal with and overcome they stutter, they should all work in the movie theater. Just don't work at the same one. um, but nah. But that's what I would say, man. If you can anything where you have to use your voice and you have to communicate with people, that's going to help you in the long run because you're gonna have to find a way to deal with it. Like the more you try to hide from it, um the more inept. I'm not gonna say inept. The more you hide from it, the more it's going to get the best of you. Um, and what else? Like what else do I think help get me to where I'm at? Um, I think would I think those were the things that helped me get to where I'm at. I don't even know where at is. I just know I'm in a better place than where I was back when I was in middle school and like grade school, you know? Um, yeah, I was yeah, I was in a bad spot, but I'm in a better spot. Not perfect, but I'm in a better spot. You know what I'm saying? So, and maybe you guys have some tips and tricks that you want to share that may help me out even further. Put it in the chat. Let me know. You know? Um, yeah, let me know. This is what YouTube is for, man. This is what the podcast is for, man. We're gonna share knowledge and we're gonna continue to grow, you know? Um, so those are my main tips, man. Though not even tips, just those are things that help me get to where I'm at. which is a better place than where I was. And I'm just trying to share this information with you. So AT is where it's at on most forms of social media. Make sure you follow me, and make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend, and do all that fun internet stuff like the old people say. And without further ado, I'm out of here, folks. Peace. Yep. Tripping with Theobold.
Let's go.
Caliente.
Tripping. Yep. Tripping. Tripping with Theobold.
Tripping with Theobold.